he said that you used a bunch of his tools. Was one of those? Does he have a flamethrower lying around? Because that would be a great farming tool.
Well, yes and no.
Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watch Your Past. Today I'm talking to Dan Lantz, the director of Hayride to Hell, which is coming to theaters on October 20th, 2023. I'm going to talk to him right now, and while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. It helps me out a lot. Thank you. So thanks so much for joining me. Today I've got director Dan Lantz talking about Hayride to Hell, which is coming to theaters on October 20th, 2023. It is a kind of like fun indie horror movie that is kind of a very different type of haunted house experience with horrible consequences for many of the people involved. So I'm excited to talk to you about it. I love the cast. I love kind of like irreverent humor, and the music was really fun too. So I'm excited to get into it. And thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, my pleasure.
Of course. So first question, always curious, how did you find this project? How did this script get across your desk?
So there's a farmer in my town, my hometown, who his name is Farmer Bob, and he used to run haunted hayrides up the way from my house. And I guess he's had this dream of making a movie now for years. And one day, and I make movies for a living, it's what I do, but we never met. We never actually met. And then a mutual friend in Florida said to Bob, there's a guy in Malvern who might be interested in helping you out. And then they reached out to me and said, there's a guy in Malvern who wants to make a movie. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And it turns out, by sheer coincidence, we lived a mile away from each other.
Oh wow.
So
that's awesome.
It was like this bizarre twist of fate that ended up, putting us together. It was crazy.
That's perfect. So kind of based on a true story, by your knowledge, did Farmer Bob ever kill anyone? I mean,
well, when it comes to farmers, you can never really know what they do. I mean,
whatever it takes to get the crops to grow, right?
Well, he certainly was. Bob is very emphatic about his imagination, but he's assured me it's his imagination. But this movie is a lot of fun and exploration of, like, I guess, when you run a farm and you're completely surrounded by suburbia, the things that happen are just, I would assume, the people who complain, it's just like your fantasies all would love to do things that you could never do, of course. So this is kind of a fun way for him to act out on his fantasies. I was like, oh, I really love to do that, Yeah, but it's all fun. It's all fun. It's all game. It's all fun and games. But we had a lot of fun bringing these crazy, crazy ideas to life. So.
And I guess that does explain a lot, because there were also, a lot of like references to, independent farming and as you said, like the kind of push and pull between agriculture and suburbia and how to use the land properly. So that explains a lot of those references coming in, because it's something that he is probably thinking about a lot and kind of maybe stressing over, maybe, getting frustrated with. So that makes perfect sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because like I'm his suburban neighbor. I'm one of those neighbors, and I have to admit that I might very well have been the source of some of his villains, because, I'm one of those people who, I have my house and I'm like, why are all these people parking on the street? This is a private residence area, but the farm is, right in the middle of it all. So, it's a lot of fun. I love to tease Bob about it and make fun of him and tell him I'm going to go, run around on his farm in the middle of the night and be like, get off my farm. So.
Exactly. That sounds perfect. And it reminds me of a story. So my wife grew up in a more agricultural area too, and they had this like turkey farm that was enormous and smelled, because imagine the turkeys. And she would complain about it until it was gone. And then she's like, where'd the turkeys go? Like, where did all that go? Because it was one of those things that's like, it's a nuisance until it's gone. Then you realize, okay, now it's just going to turn into a bunch of houses and it's just going to become like a big suburban, sea essentially.
Yeah. Well, part of Bob's dream is these movies and the income from these movies will help fund the conservation of the farmland for generations to come. So yeah, he's really into conservation for sure.
Yeah. That makes sense. So one of the things that I was really excited when I saw this announcement is Bill Moseley as, Farmer Farmer Fred, I think, in the film. How did you get him involved? Because I love Bill Moseley. I think he's a lot of fun, and he really kind of brought that character to life.
Well, when we were casting the movie, we're looking for people who would have the right fit for the movie. And he had just done Ghosts in the Darkness or Ghosts in the Wilderness or something like that with Nick Cage. And he had this amazing beard. And I was like, oh my God, if he has, and he also has, so that was one thing. And he also has a reputation for more campy, goofy comedy. So, and that's what this movie is. It's not a straight up, scare fest. It's more of the sick comedy, dark humor, and as the farmer, the lead, he really knows how to deliver those zinger lines with an aplomb that's, it's funny. I mean, let's face it. People like him can make, bloody murder funny, and he does a great job of it. So
yeah, no, definitely. I think his mentality was kind of perfect for this film. It's kind of like he got his zingers in, but he is generally just like a fun, loving, kind of over the top character, which you kind of needed to kind of keep this feeling light despite some of the things that happen in it. So
yeah, and to be quite honest, I cannot imagine anybody else other than him in it because it was just that good,
Yeah, exactly. And also, it seems like you might have gotten a twofer with him because his daughter also came in as one of the other main characters, Hazel. So, did he suggest her? Had you worked with her before?
Well, it's funny. We had another actress actually cast for the role of Hazel, but during the process of making the movie, Bill and I would spend a decent amount of time, when we're not on set, just talking about life and family and kids, because I have a wife and 3 kids, and he has a wife and 2 daughters. So we were just talking about things in general, and he told me about his daughters. And then when we had the injury, one of the people, she kind of got hurt. She twisted her ankle and, didn't want to do it anymore, and we were like, well, wait a minute. Didn't you say your daughter would love to act? Because she could be perfect for this. So it was just a strange serendipitous, like someone had to bow out. And I then knew about Marion, and I was like, let's go for it. And she really stepped to the plate, and she just did some amazing stuff. So Marion was not by design, but man, was such a happy accident because she's just incredible. I mean, you saw the movie, so.
Yeah, that is also very lucky because I know indie schedules and budgets are very, very tight. So trying to find someone else to come in to work with your schedule, it must have been difficult. It's nice that you had someone like ready to go, and wanted to do it right from the start. That's perfect.
Oh yeah, it was kind of funny because we were talking, and he was like, "Hey Marion, get on a plane. I gotta roll." Like it was one of those. Just get on a plane right now, fly here, and we'll put you on set tomorrow. And it was like that. It was super fast. She just flew in, put her in the costume. She fit the costume, and we just did it. It was like the best little accident. It was fantastic.
Yeah, very serendipitous. And you also had Kane Hodder in not a, psycho murderer role, which I found interesting. I was waiting for him to like bust on a mask or something, but he played, a straight edge character. How did you get Kane involved?
Kane was one of those guys who just came up to me over and over again when I was talking about who could I get to play the sheriff. He kept popping up in conversation, just kept popping up. And then I was like, yeah, man, he really looks like the kind of guy I want for the sheriff. I want a really tough, imposing, mean-looking guy. And then we had a phone call and we talked, and I'm like, dude, this guy's great. This be a great, it'd be great. So I was like, boom. And I talked to him, and he loved the idea. And Kane was elated. Like, he didn't have to throw on a mask or hide his face once. He did straight up acting, and I thought it was great. And sometimes guys like that, they get pigeonholed, and people don't realize they can actually act. And he did a great job. I mean, he did some serious emoting.
Well, yeah, no, it was fun to see Kane without a mask, without, murderous intent for the most part. So it was nice to see him just like play a normal character and see what he could do. Because yeah, you're right. Like he would very likely get pigeonholed a lot. I just saw a movie of him where he plays like a goat-faced killer, and the big draw was having him in, and it was cool. But this was also really fun to like see him in a regular role. So
Yeah, and he's good. I mean, he can really he added a real level of gravitas that what I needed, and he's good. He was very very good, and he also when I teamed him up with the person who played his deputy Graham Wolfe, they really were a good duo.
Mhm.
So they were
Yep.
very funny, just the two of us. A lot, because it's a comedy, so his idiot nephew and him were also like he was a great straight man to the comedy too. So it was more than just being a heavy. He was he had comic timing and he really played it well.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. Their chemistry was a lot of fun, and I think maybe my like second favorite character after Bill was I think it was Chris James Boylan playing just like this utility person. He was the all these characters. Was he all these characters like in the actual Haunted Hayride, like playing the
That
pilgrim?
okay, that was Peter. That was Peter Patricios.
Okay, Peter Patrick. I was
You,
trying to look
you're
up the cast because I couldn't figure out who he was, but he was awesome. I loved him every time I saw him. I was like, this is perfect.
yeah, Chris Boylan was the paramedic, and Peter Patricios was the guy on stage, the hunchback on stage. He was the pilgrim. He was the clown. Yeah, he's a great actor, and we love having him on set because he's a real character on set too.
Yeah, no, he definitely felt like he had like theatrical training because he was just kind of like grabbing the scene every time. I love seeing him on there.
Yeah, he's
Um,
one of those actors who always gets cast.
and so a big part of this film is the farm. Now, was this filmed on Farmer Bob's actual farm, or where did you find the place to
Yes,
film?
that was the
That's
whole point. Well, actually, you asked me what brought me to the movie. I'm one of the greatest difficulties with making these movies is finding the locations, and the fact that Bob came to me, he's like, "Look, I own the farm. I have all these locations." That was a big appeal for me because I knew we'd be able to shoot the whole thing in one location, which is really important for
Mhm.
logistics and continuity, and having to go back and get a pickup and all that stuff. And back to Bob, a lot of this movie is his fantasies of because he loves horror films. Let me preface it: Bob loves horror films. So like he sees like this device, like, oh man, that'd be a really great horror scene if we, I don't want to give away, but if we did that
Yeah,
thing with this awesome piece of farm equipment, that would be a great thing. And so a lot of these, he kept on thinking of ways of killing people with farm equipment, you know. So and it was all his farm equipment, all on his farm. And we made a few stunt versions of things so no one would actually get hurt. But all these things, and it's fun. I mean, when you have full access to a farm, like there's a scene where someone's hiding inside of a piece of equipment, and Bob didn't even. It's not really killing, but I'm like, the thing is so big, someone can hide in it. He's like, I never thought of that. So I was having fun with it too because the whole place is just, a target-heavy environment full of great sets, locations, props, and it's free reign, man. As a filmmaker, that's what you want.
exactly. And you don't have to really worry about damaging anything because it's his property and he wants to do it. So if something gets damaged, you're like, well, that's just kind of what happens, and hopefully he'll be fine with it. So it's perfect. He said that you used a bunch of his tools. Was one of those? Does he have a flamethrower lying around? Because that would be a great farming tool.
Well, yes and no. The yes is yeah because apparently they grow real crops on this farm. Asparagus down, cut the asparagus and burn it down. So they actually use that on the farm
Oh, that's
for the
awesome.
asparagus.
That is farming is way cooler than I expected it to be. All these really fun, powerful tools and all these like this time for imagination. This sounds great. Maybe I should become a farmer someday. So I know we're running short on time, so I got one last question. This is a very important one. I want to hear, what your Halloween plans are. Are you going to go to Farmer Bob's Haunted Hayride? Are you going to take that in and kind of, be scared for your life? Like, what are you going to do for Halloween?
Well, I actually just love carving pumpkins. That's like my favorite thing. So I always love carving the pumpkins and handing out the candy. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it when people come to the door with all the different costumes and then the crazy stuff. So it's kind of like New Year's Eve, right? Alcoholics, they say that's amateur night, so they don't drink. So like
There you
since I'm
go.
a horror guy, like it's amateur night on Halloween, so I just sit back and let all the other people do their fun, and I like to just watch. So, but like I said, I usually carve a pumpkin. My wife and I have carved pumpkins, and we have a little black cat, and so we just love to hand out the candy and see all the costumes.
That sounds lovely. And one last question. You said that Farmer Bob had this haunted hayride. Have you been on that? Did you go on that growing up? I know it was in your area, but I'm not sure if you actually ever went on it.
I did back in the 90s. I did. Yeah, I never would have thought I'd be back because some of the props in the movie are from that hayride. They were in the barn for 15 years. So
That is awesome. A way to revive it. So you can relive Dan's childhood, or at least, 90s, and experience this haunted hayride for yourself. The film is Hayride to Hell, which comes to theaters on October 20th, 2023. This is director Dan Lantz. Thanks so much for your time.
hey, my pleasure. Enjoy the movie.
That was Dan Lantz, the director of Hayride to Hell, which is coming to theaters on October 20th, 2023. It is a fun indie horror movie about a different kind of haunted experience, one that has great consequences for all involved. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.